The Twins lose their starting pitcher. The Lynx keep on winning, and the Bison best baseball player is gone. Hot Mike on a Wednesday starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Izzo.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the, well, it was great when it happened edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL, good morning in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, and Inforum.com. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hump Day is here, June the 4th. Halfway through our first week of June. Getting set for a great sports night on tap. We'll have the opening game of the Stanley Cup Final, which we'll get to that coming up later on in our show. We got Game 1 of the Women's College World Series tonight in Oklahoma City. Anticipation, of course, of Game 1 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. So a lot of good stuff to sink our teeth into here on this Wednesday. Excited about our guest lineup, which we'll get to in a little bit. Had a really positive reaction yesterday, if you missed it, to our guest we had in studio, a couple members of Cheyenne's baseball team that won the state championship. If you missed that, you can stream that on WDAY Plus. It's available on our YouTube page. You can find it there as well. Or if you want to listen back to it at Inforum.com. That was good stuff. We appreciate those guys coming by. A lot to unpack to start our show today. The Lynx keep on winning. We'll show you that here in a minute. Off to a brilliant start of this WNBA season. The Bison baseball season ended on Sunday. Portal window opened yesterday, and unfortunately, it claimed NDSU's best player, which we'll get to that in just a little bit. Not surprising. We talked about it on Monday's show. We started our week talking about that because that's the name of the game. We're not naive to the fact it's just football and basketball, that it comes for all sports. Heck, tonight's softball championship is a perfect example of that. When you look at Texas Tech playing Texas, Texas Tech is there because they paid $1 million to Stanford's best player to come transfer there. And now she's pitching in the championship. You don't decry it. It's the name of what we do, but it's not. Don't think it's just football and basketball that it's happening. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But we'll start with some good vibes with the Twins that are tempered by the fact that we can't have great things all the time. The Twins are crushing it on this road trip. They should have won. Heck, they could have won all 3 games in Seattle. Played well in Tampa, despite the fact they're playing in a minor league ballpark. Now they've played 2 games in Sacramento against the Sacramento A's. That's what we call them on this program. They've scored 20 runs in 2 games. Things are going okay in the AAA baseball. If only they could play all their games there. Apparently their offense would be unstoppable. But they hit a speed bump last night on the mound in their win against the A's. We'll show you what Royce Lewis even got into the hit parade last night. Full stop. The A's uniforms they wore last night are awesome. Oakland at least leads in that. And I only show this just to twist the knife in for Twins fans. Why can't they find players like Brent Rooker, who's an all-star with Oakland, gets the scoring started with an RBI single. A's got out to a 2-0 lead. Willie Castro had a heck of a game last night. This is a bomb to left, 395-foot shot, make it a 2-1 score. I watched this live. Trevor Larnach hits this one nearly out of the area of where the stadium is. The race for a ball out there is fantastic. 432-foot shot. We're tied up at 2. Castro up again in the 6th inning, already with 1 home run in the game. If you're showing him again, we know why, because he cracked another one. Another laser beam to left. These are not Major League Baseball design out there. Another home run. 3-2 Twins in the sixth. They'd add to it. Buxton is raking right now. Back from the injured list. Contributes again here with the bases loaded. This a 2-run single to get Brooks Lee and Royce Lewis home. He would take second on an error. Now it's a 5-2 Minnesota lead. We pick it up here in the bottom of the sixth inning. Pablo Lopez is cruising. During his warm-up tosses, you could see through a pitch there, he's looking over at the dugout, and then he motions for the trainer to come out. That's not good news. Lopez was having a good start again. 5 innings. He allowed 4 hits, had struck out 4, but he comes out of the game. Remember, the clubhouse area locker room is in the outfield. It's not underneath the dugout, so he has to leave the game. The Twins' bats continue. Lewis, as we mentioned earlier, breaks out of his slump here, cracks one off the wall. That's going to score 2 runs. Nearly was another Royce Lewis grand slam, which he has plenty of those. That scores 2, makes it an 8-3 score. They would add a couple more runs, and they get a 10-3 win. They've scored 20 runs in 2 games in the first 2 of this set against the Sacramento Athletics. Of course, the big news, though, is Pablo Lopez left the game in the 6th inning. He gets the win because he went the mandatory 5. Buxton with a couple of RBIs. Obviously, Castro with 2 home runs in the win. Lewis gets a big hit as the Twins get to now 6 games over 500 and put Sacramento at 16 games under 500. Lewis snapped. What was that, Kyle? 0 for what? 38? 39? What was it's cut off on my monitor. That's what I'm asking. I'm sorry. Can't see. 32. It was up there for longest hitless streaks as members of the Twins. All right, so here's what, after the game, the update on Lopez says he'll go a more extensive examination today. He suffered a strained latimus muscle in the back of his pitching shoulder, back here. He said, well, if it feels sore, if I try to make a max effort pitch to get the inning started, who knows what could happen. Those split-second scenarios when you start hearing both sides, oh, just power through it, it's nothing, or it could be something terrible. But it sounds like he's going to be heading to the injured list and sounded much more resigned to his first stint on the injured list as a Twin. Of course, remember, he missed some time earlier this season. So just having an understanding of the shoulder area, what goes on back there, if it feels like I have to do a lat pull down, I would be like, yeah, that doesn't feel too good. The one thing we don't know is how severe it is. Obviously tomorrow, meaning today, imaging, doctors' opinions getting looked at, and we'll see what the plan moving forward will be. It certainly sounds like, though, he's going to be missing some time. ERA at 2.82. Said he felt a tightness behind his shoulder during the 5th inning. That was right before he came out of the game. So that tempers the excitement a bit after another nice win last night. Game 3, another 9 o'clock start tonight out in Sacramento. Zebby Matthews will go for Minnesota, looking for his first win of the season against Jeffrey Springs, who's been one of the nice bright spots for this Sacramento Athletics team. Mark of 5-4 through 61 innings on the year. That's again, with any pitcher, you fear the worst. Anytime it's shoulder, elbow, anything in that vicinity. We remember what Joe Ryan dealt with, and he was done. It was early August, and we didn't see him again the rest of the season. Worst case scenario start, and that's what Lopez was talking about after the start last night. So we'll wait, see any update on that. We're not going to get it when the show's on this morning, but as the day goes on, what Pablo's status is going forward. But I think the Twins are bracing that he's not going to be pitching anytime soon, which is disappointing because they're humming along right here. Got another 2 games left on this series, and then it's back home for a little bit of stretch as we reach the middle part of June. A couple other things we want to hit on here before we set up our show on this Wednesday. Mention off the top, you haven't paid attention to it yet, you better start, because the Minnesota Lynx are picking up the basketball mojo that the Wolves had for the better part of the last 2.5 months. You The Lynx, remember, were a game away from winning the WNBA championship last fall. Frankly, they got hosed out of it with some terrible calls in Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. It seems like they have their own revenge tour started in 2025. They are now 8-0 after whooping up on the Phoenix Mercury last night. And Nafisa Collier, who was tremendous last year, is playing at an MVP level so far in 2025. She's been unstoppable for the Lynx in their first handful of games. How about that nifty pass in there? Got the bench all excited what they did down low there. This is a game they never trailed in last night. They got out and dominated against a Phoenix team that is scuffling there. You see Natisha Heidemann, who knocks a corner three. Collier gets it done there. Lead is up to 14. Then just a straight-out steal from Kayla McBride. Goes in for the lay-in, puts that up to a 16-point Minnesota lead. Some nice rotation into the corner. Alana Smith, corner three. Lead up to 16. They got up 21 at one point. Collier knocks it down to McBride. Lynx cruise. They're dancing again. They win by 23, 88-65, 8-0. Collier goes for 18, 11, and 5 last night in the win. They and the Liberty are still unbeaten. That was the first game of the Commissioner's Cup, which is the in-season tournament that they have. Upcoming schedule here, because now it's time to start, for those that are on the fence, start paying attention. They play Dallas on Sunday. Paige Beckers has been out with a concussion. It's not sure if she'll be back for that game. At Seattle. Then next Saturday, it's the Sparks. Then Vegas. They don't play New York for a bit here. They don't have the Liberty till the end of July. I know there's 16 teams, so you got to play everybody, but we don't see the Liberty until the end of July. So it's a little bit. And then they play New York 3 times in a week. Somebody explain that to me. August 10th, the 16th, the 19th. Then they play the Liberty 3 straight times, which all those games are going to be nationally televised. We don't see Indiana either on the schedule for a bit. Of course, Caitlin Clark is out with a hamstring injury. They don't see the Fever until, seriously, the end of August? Who makes this schedule? Anyway, that's the latest there on the unbeaten Lynx. Last thing before we go, mention it after the Bison won against Kansas and lost to Creighton on Sunday in the NCAA baseball tournament. Be heads up, portal's going to open. There's going to be some player movement. And unfortunately, at least for Bison baseball and for fans of it, NDSU's best player is in the portal. No surprise, Jake Schaffner announced yesterday, or reported that he has entered the NCAA transfer portal with 2 years of eligibility. Schaffner has done literally everything that you could hope for in his 2 years as a Bison. He's been a 2-time Summit League first-team selection. Let's just stop with that. He was the only freshman that was selected to the Summit League first team last year. He was the Summit League Defensive Player of the Year this year. Okay, got that. His 2 years in Fargo, stat-wise, he had a combined .353, racked up 148 hits, 3 home runs, 38 RBIs, slugged .446, scored 90 runs. He made a combined 13 errors, a fielding percentage of .965. He's going to be well sought after. I reached out to Jake late last night. He said couldn't do anything today. He's busy fielding phone calls today, which you can imagine. So hopefully maybe we get a chance to visit with him either tomorrow or Friday. But it's a hectic time now because this is a guy that every top program would want on their roster. He's done it for the last 2 years against everybody. Saw here against LSU. Game we televised last year against the Jacks. Look at that defensive play that he made. Another one here against LSU. I mean, it's not just the fact that he can rake. He can make some dynamite plays in the field. And we can't be naive about it, folks. It can't be just football and basketball. We clutch our pearls. We're like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe. No. You look at the top baseball, softball programs, they're shelling out a ton of cash to get really good mid-major players to come to their program. Jake is the next in that. You credit Tyler Oaks for finding a guy like Jake, and I interviewed him last March of 2024, when I saw him coming on, like, holy cow, this guy is off to a great start out of Janesville, Wisconsin. And he's going to play in the Cape Cod League this summer, which is another indication that probably after next year, he likely is going to get drafted. That's how it works in the Major League Baseball. You either get drafted after your freshman year or junior year. Don't ask me how to explain it. Strecker may be able to explain it better than I can on how college baseball and the draft works. But he's going to go somewhere of a high major capability, and he's the first. Not say he's the last either. There's a couple pitchers out there to be wary of if you're Tyler Oaks. Again, it's just the name of the game, what goes on in collegiate sports. So Schaffner in the portal for North Dakota State baseball. We got a packed show coming up for you here on this Wednesday. Excited about our guest lineup, which is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Drew Trafton will join us in just a few minutes. We'll chat some FCS football. There's some hot rumors out there today about what could potentially happen in college athletics. We'll get to that with Drew coming up in just a few minutes. At 10 o'clock, we'll go to Stanley, North Dakota. Ben Hynek will join us, who is maybe the next big thing in North Dakota high school football. Ben has just wrapped up his sophomore year. So, again, he's got 2 years of high school football remaining. And he's got at least 10 Division I offers. Couple from the SEC. Couple from the Big Ten. One from the Big 12. The Bison have offered. His dad is a former Bison. But this summer is blown up, and there's probably more to come. We'll visit with Ben about what life has been like over the last couple months, coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35 from Thompson, North Dakota, the only participant in next weekend's NCAA track championships for North Dakota State is Sam Roller in the Javelin. He'll join us at 10:35 about making the NCAAs. He'll compete in Tracktown, USA a week from tonight in the Javelin, keeping an unreal streak going, by the way, for the Bison men in that event. That's coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Wednesday. We're glad you're joining us. We're just getting started. Hot Mike back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, Drew Trafton, contributor, friend of the program, Sam Herder had a rather little bombshell tweet
did he.
earlier to this morning. We can throw it up on the screen here because it's June, and here we go. Sam says, be on alert for some Western mid-major realignment news that will become official in a few hours. Hero Sports will have a full story out once that official news hits.
You know that meme of Pedro Pascal, like, crying and then laughing and then crying again, like in going through that emotional shift? That
it could be us.
That seems to hit home this morning. It's like June is now something on the calendar, and it's realignment, and it's just like it's as reliable as death and taxes at this point. Like, it is just, it happens. So, it's what we do in June.
This is not North Dakota State, moving to FBS football. I do not. I mean, that would be so
blindsiding that would be
nothing
like,
on that.
Yeah.
This is finally maybe the Summit League adding a school or two, because we've been waiting on that for a while. This starts, I think, Utah Valley is out there because we've talked about them. I know.
but no,
it says
seriously.
Western mid-major realignment. So that's let's put the
and
dots
certain
together
dominoes
here.
need to fall before others can fall. But it's just like, how goofy is it that we're talking about Utah Valley?
I know.
They're not even playing football.
No, they don't play
Like
football.
this is just like,
I know.
moving pieces into place. But it's hilarious.
But literally,
It's
they're
so
holding up.
funny.
They're holding up the train.
Yeah,
They got to
totally.
make. So they have a Big West invite. They play in the WAC, and we know the WAC is pretty much on its last legs here. So they have to make up their mind if either they want to go to the Big West or the Summit League. They have a standing offer from both, from what I've been told.
And there's this rumor out there. I don't know if it's true. I hope it's not true. That there's like a bonus payment that they would receive from moving. Like one of these conferences is not only like offsetting the cost of a transfer fee. They're offering to pay them money, like straight up. Like, hey, if you join our conference, we'll give you this bonus. Like that. I mean, it is what it is, and I just don't think it's going to change.
No.
Like, I think forever now, until there's like just absolute concrete realignment movement where it's like the whole structure of college football changes. This is going to happen every year.
Yeah.
And we're always going to have this, ooh, is this going to be NDSU? Is this, like, are we going to finally see it happen?
Because if Utah Valley decides, if it is today, then I think we're going to have an answer on Southern Utah, on Utah Tech.
Yeah.
Because I know each of them have, I don't know if it's a standing offer, but they certainly are being looked at by the Summit League. Abilene Christian is out there. UT Arlington is out there. And who am I forgetting? Tarleton State out there.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think the Mountain West makes sense for Tarleton. Like if they're trying to get into Texas.
If they want to do that, Texas State is also still being rumored as a potential Mountain West target as well.
Both those schools have football, so that's how do you navigate that? St. Mary's in California makes sense to the Mountain West for me too.
Yep.
Just because Gonzaga's leaving, that was their big foil. That was the big, big thing propping up that conference. So it's like, okay, now that they're out, do you then, try to find a new home as well? I don't know. Sac State's out there. Like, I don't think it's going to be that big of a move.
So the president actually said, the Sac State president loves being on social media. I mean, he responds to everybody. And he said June 16th is when the meeting will be for the classification on if they're going to accepted into FBS for 2026.
Yeah. But then they'd have to find a home for all of their other sports.
Correct. Which they may have lined up. I don't know, but
then that does that shoe drop then after the FBS news?
I would imagine so.
It? Okay.
I would think so.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Big Sky would be eager to say goodbye.
Yeah, have fun. Good luck with that.
Speaking of the Big Sky, last week, week ago tomorrow, we had the national TV games were announced for all of the FCS game, which is basically the Missouri Valley, the FCS kickoff, and the Big Sky. And we went through this with Sam, but I wanted to chat with you about it because obviously you're our Big Sky guy that we go to. 4 games got picked. 2 Grizz games got on there.
Which even when, the football isn't, they're going to be a contender.
I think everybody expects Montana to be pretty good this year.
For sure. But even when they're not like the marquee of the Big Sky, they still draw the eyeballs. Like that speaks to the fan base.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So here are the games. September the 27th, Idaho will be there. We don't know the time or network yet. I imagine that's going to be a later kickoff. 9:30 Central Time, I would imagine.
For sure.
Likely ESPN2. Then October 24th, the Grizz at Sac State, which could be the swan song for those two teams to play as conference rivals.
Yeah.
That's a 9:30. It's a Friday night game on ESPN2.
Yep, and that'll give Sac State all the exposure that it's been looking for in terms of now they're going to go to be an independent in the FBS.
Good
and,
luck. Good
luck.
To
We'll
you
hear
there.
all of that story and about like that. They'll do their
I
they'll
like
get their
the Friday
laurels there.
idea though, and I want the Valley to do that for a couple of games because there's more windows. I think, frankly, available. Now you may have to play at a later start time. I'm not saying, hey, NDSU, let's start a game at 9:30 at night. No, but 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock on a Friday night, I think would
you're
work.
getting 2 time zones probably at that point that are getting home from high school games, potentially, or you'll be able to catch the second half at least. And that's good.
Yeah.
It works really well for the Big Sky just because of the time zones
Absolutely,
that
they're
conferences
in.
are in. And the bulk of the eyeballs are going to come from that group anyways. And they're not looking for ratings juggernauts at that point. But they're those schools are going to bring some eyes. Idaho and Montana, that's going to draw some a decent audience.
The one after that on Halloween night had me intrigued. Idaho at Northern Arizona on a Friday night. That's on ESPN2, 9:30 Central. NAU, which I know they made the playoffs last year, gets a national televised game at that dome, at the Sky Up Dome.
I almost wonder if that was like, ESPN was like, we need something on Halloween night. It's a weekend night. We're not going to have that much of an audience. And the Big Sky was like, well, hey, let's throw NAU a bone. They haven't had one of these yet. And so that.
Have you ever been there? Have you been to Flagstaff?
I haven't.
That?
No, the Sky Dome.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. That's like a graveyard for the Montana Grizzlies. Like whenever they go there, one of their like marquee players gets hurt, or at least that's just like
they have struggled there. Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like, and it's a devastating injury usually, and that turf used to be just awful. Like it just used to be a place where you just did not want to go play.
Then the last one they have is Davis and Montana State on the week before the Brawl of the Wild game.
That'll be big.
That'll be pretty good. I think Davis may not be as good as they were. I don't know about Montana State. I don't think they're going to drop off, but I don't know. They should be good. I don't know how good they're going to be, but that will be intriguing, especially that late in the season to have
for
that.
Sure. Yeah, really what you're looking at there, I think, is potentially one of those two schools to drop off from title contention at that point.
Yeah.
For the Big Sky. Yeah, conference title contention. And then, setting up like if Montana State wins that game, which at home, good chance they'll win that game. What does that mean for the Brawl of the Wild then? Because, we've had so many games, now where it's that Brawl of the Wild games, not only for the Big Sky, but it could be for for a top 3 seed.
I want to say
it could be, something like that.
The last 3 or 4 years, that game has been exactly that.
Or it's like, does the losing team then, of that Brawl of the Wild, there's so many eventualities. Like, it's like, does that mean a seed's on the line for, if the lower, of the two teams coming into that game wins?
Right.
Do they end up in seed conversation? Do they end up with a bye?
Montana State played that year. The Grizz won. And pushed Montana State down to a seed where they end up having to play the Bison. Yeah. Which, granted, that was before we seeded 1 through 16.
Right.
But that,
that
Vegan was
huge
not thrilled about
implications.
that. No.
Yeah. You have to welcome in NDSU. We all saw how that went. An overtime, win for the Bison.
Their path got immeasurably harder,
so much harder
by losing in that game.
Yeah. And it impacted NDSU too.
Correct.
Because that put them on that trajectory of having to go through the Montana gauntlet. And which they almost survived. Yeah.
I'm intrigued on the Valley ended up getting both games that they had last year this year again, and ESPN chose Vermilion, and that's no slight to our viewers in Vermilion, but I'm intrigued. That's not a. We've done a couple games out of there. That's not an easy game to broadcast out of. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like for their SDSU USD game that's in early November this year.
But that's like, you know what? That's a great game
absolutely.
That's like, how do you not take that one?
And
with how those last few matchups have gone.
I said it on this show, and I said it to our crew. Like, enjoy the Dakota Marker game in 23 because that's probably the last one we're going to get a chance to do. Unfortunately, it's one of the few times I've been right that ESPN has grabbed in the last 2 years.
And it's just
I don't blame them.
Yeah, how do you not do it?
Right?
And look at how those games have gone.
Absolutely.
It's just it makes sense, and it is tough. But you know what? Also, look at the exposure that gives the FCS and these schools that are perennially the cream of the crop, and you're going to see one of these teams in Nashville, guaranteed.
Late email comes in. Sorry to interrupt there. For Drew, Domke asked Drew when Major League Baseball decided to schedule a playoff series in late May this past weekend. Twins Mariners was pretty darn good.
3 extra inning games, or was it? No, it was 2 extra innings, and one went into the 9th.
And 2 walk-offs.
Yeah, that was really, really, that was a fun series. I enjoyed watching that.
Mariners are good, man. I think so. They got a good team.
Yeah, I think if they get a couple of their starters back, and they get some consistency in their lineup. I mean, but that was a fun series. I went to bed Friday night. It was hilarious. Like Cal Raleigh hits this home run to go up 6-3 heading into the ninth, and I'm like, I can go to bed. It's fine.
Mariners gonna win
I
this
wake
one.
up in the morning, 12-6 in extras. I was like, what happened? I had to go back and rewatch that. Those teams are fun. It'd be great if they could match up in a playoff series. It did feel like a playoff series.
How many people, if you were to walk down the street, know who Cal Raleigh is and who he plays for?
Well, they should now. I mean, the dude is injecting himself in the MVP conversation.
He
for
leads
sure.
the majors in home runs.
Yeah, and he's just he's been so critical. Behind the plate, he throws guys out.
Yeah.
He's when he's DHing, he's just raking. He's a switch hitter. He's doing. Yeah, he's the type of guy that does it the right way, and MLB is just so bad.
Yeah, out of 10, I'd say 1 out of 10 probably know who Cal Raleigh is.
For sure. And he could end up being the second best Cal to ever play baseball, right? And it's but he's so good.
It's probably a short list. I can't think of many Cals that have played outside of
Ripken. And but it's MLB just does such a bad job at marketing their star guys. And he is every bit that guy. 23 home runs by
He's tied with
June.
Ohtani now because Ohtani hit one last night against the Mets. I forgot. So
A catcher has never had that many home runs heading into June.
Yep.
He's on a very short list of guys that from a production standpoint.
I would venture a guess, this is probably being we got a roll here, that out of 10 people, how many would know who Ohtani is?
Yeah.
I'd say he's a giant of a man, so you'd have to think, well, he's got to be an athlete of some sort, but
Well, yeah, if you walk down the street and just say this, just say, who's the best player on the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Yeah.
I don't think people are pulling Shohei Ohtani out of there.
Are they even saying Mookie Betts? I don't know about that.
Right. It's just, and that tells you everything.
Right?
About the difference.
As much as football has captivated and grabbed everything, baseball is sitting here just grasping it. And they got great stories. They got great players. They got great teams.
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's been a fun season so far. So fun.
And the biggest thing we've talked about is that ESPN decided to drop them their television deal, and the fact that some of their best players nobody knows about.
Yeah.
That's their biggest deal. One last email. Tell Drew that George Kirby got hit in the face by a line drive last night. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
I don't know if I want to see it.
He had such good rehab assignments leading into that. That's not
not
great.
a good deal. Good to see you, bud. Thanks for coming by as always. All right. Drew Trafton joins us each and every Wednesday at 9:20. We'll break. Get you ready. By the way, another thing happening tonight: the Stanley Cup Finals. Anybody know that's happening tonight? And it should be pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It should be pretty good. Panthers and Oilers. We'll preview that and much more. We come back here on a Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're guest-free here until the top of the hour. Big second-hour guests from a couple of Class B towns. We're excited about that coming up at the top of our next hour. All right, I mentioned Hot Mic has learned. Sources indicate that apparently the Stanley Cup Final begins tonight. It's just it's another ongoing joke here with hockey, but this is no joke. We've got a dynamite championship series planned. Edmonton and Florida facing each other for the second year in a row. I knew Strecker was going to make a dynamite graphic. There it is. Game 1 tonight in Edmonton. Game 2 on Friday. They'll take the weekend off. Don't get me started on that. Then they'll play Game 3 Monday in Florida. Game 4, they take 2 days off. They're trying to avoid the NBA. And then for some reason, they only have 1 day off when they go from, not Miami, Sunrise to Edmonton for Game 5. That's the series schedule. But we have the first rematch in the Cup Final since Detroit and Pittsburgh played in 2008 and 2009. The Red Wings won it in 2008, then the Penguins won it in 2009. Get a similar situation here. Now, Florida has been dominant in this Cup run. And you'll say, well, wait a minute. They were pushed to 7 games in the second round. They were. And what did they do in Game 7? They blew the doors off of Toronto. Then they blew the doors off of Carolina in the conference final. They added Brad Marchand from Boston on top of a team that is already loaded, led by Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, Sergei Bobrovsky and net. They're really, really good. Whoever won that first series between Florida and Tampa, you had a sense that maybe they could make it to the Stanley Cup final, and Florida handled the Lightning in the first round. That was a series. What did that one go? Florida won that in 5. Right? Tampa's pretty darn good. Meanwhile, this is crazy. I had to look this up. Edmonton took the same exact road in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs as they did last year. They beat the same exact teams in the same exact round. That's wild. They've eliminated the Kings 4 years in a row, which if you're Los Angeles, you want no part of seeing Edmonton in the first round. But that's exactly what happened. Then they knocked off Vegas, and we know Vegas beat the Wild in 6, and then beat Dallas in 5. Last year, on the road to the Cup final, remember they took it all the way to 7, beat L.A., beat Vegas, and then beat Dallas in 6 before losing to the Florida Panthers in 7. Now, and obviously they have the best player in the game. They have Connor McDavid, who won the MVP of the entire playoff last year. It's not the final. Remember, in hockey, it's different than basketball. Basketball, they give out the NBA, the finals MVP for just the series. Hockey, it's a culmination of the entire tournament. And McDavid won it. Remember, he didn't come out to accept the Conn Smythe. They just lost in Game 7. There's no shaming of that. But that's a rarity. First time that had happened in 20-some-odd years in hockey, that the playoff MVP came from the losing team in the Stanley Cup. It seems much like other teams we've talked about bent on revenge or redemption. Edmonton is played like that, and they have the best player in the game. I'm interested because I enjoy watching great teams, great players. I don't watch hockey nearly as much as I used to, but I'll be invested to say, hey, I want a great series. I think you got it. You got two really, really good teams set to face one another. Is it good for the sport that we have the same two teams playing again? We've asked that in football, where the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl 3 years running. The Patriots dominate. I think for the average sports fan, it's better if you have teams that you know, or teams like are recognizable. Going back to our conversation we had with Drew in our last segment on how much does recognizability help in getting viewers to watch. In baseball, they have a struggle there. Hockey is a niche sport as it is. It doesn't help that it's all on cable. The entire series is on TNT, and I'll sound biased here that it switches every other year between ESPN, ABC, and TNT. This is TNT's year to get the Stanley Cup final. That was the deal that the NHL made. So ratings are not going to be as high. It's definitely not going to be as high because there's a Canadian team in it. And you'll say, well, wait a minute. There's a team from the southern half of the U.S. in it. How good is that? I would tell you, this is the, I think, 6th final in a row that a team from Florida has reached the Stanley Cup final. So you got to get over that. And right, look at the teams that are really good. Carolina's good. Dallas, good. Obviously, Tampa Bay and Florida, good. I don't know what happened to Nashville, but those teams are traditionally pretty darn good. California teams have their, Anaheim's trying to get better. Kings are always good. Vegas, good. Get over it. It's the deal. And I think if you like great storylines and great games, that will be for you. Now, finding it's on TNT, might be a challenge if you're surfing the dial tonight because you're waiting for the Twins game to start because it doesn't start till 9 o'clock. That might be the bigger issue on that. But that, to me, sets up what should be a dynamite 7-game series. That's what you hope for. Last year, Florida won the first 3, dominated the first 3 games. Edmonton then won Game 4. I think it was 8-1. Won Game 5 on the road, then blew them out in Game 6, so we got to a 7th game. I don't expect any team to do that this time around. I do expect a long series, but I don't expect any team to go up 3-0 like we had last year. One last thing before we break, and heard this come over the news late yesterday afternoon. I know we have a certain section of our audience that will appreciate this story on celebrating the life of the great Jim Marshall, who passed away yesterday. One of the all-time great Vikings at the age of 87. And for an audience like myself, I never saw Jim Marshall play in person. Grew up, knew about him for the reason probably he's most famous for, that he played 270 straight games, the record that stood till Brett Favre broke it. Others, I know him, I found out as well, he was the guy that picked up the ball and ran the wrong way for a safety for the Vikings. But he was part of the inaugural Vikings game, September 17th, 1961. 282 consecutive regular season games, which is counting his 12 with the Browns in his 1960 rookie year. NFL record until Favre broke it as a Viking in 2009. I'm not sure why in the world this man is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he was on the Purple People Eaters with Alan Page, with Carl Eller. He is a giant. I mean, his name is in the Viking Ring of Honor, as you can see there at the old Metrodome. You can see that old building. He's a monster of a man. And he wasn't as good as Alan Page, probably as Carl Eller, but he never missing a game is insane. Including the playoffs, he played 301 consecutive games, which is third behind Jeff Fiegels, who's a punter, and there's a different distinction there, and Favre. His 289 consecutive games started, including the playoffs, is second behind Favre at 321. Carl Eller released a statement yesterday. Jim Marshall is not dead. He is alive in my heart and in my soul, and he will always be my friend. He was inspirational to our team. Every week he was ready to go. That's what everybody looked for and waited for. And sometimes just a minute before a game, he would show up and say, let's go do it. I love Jim Marshall. One of Marshall's NFL record fumble recoveries, of course, was turned to the infamous play, this is from the Star Tribune, that followed him for years, the wrong way run. 1964 in San Francisco, scooped up a fumble, ran 66 yards to the end zone that his team was defending, giving the 49ers a safety rather than him scoring a scoop and score touchdown. And that, unfortunately, will always be part of his story as well, next to the fact that he never missed a game, and unfortunately next to the fact that he's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But I don't know if the voters got sick of voting in guys from the Purple People Eaters, because I'll look at a more recent team that I'm connected to, which was the Bills of the 90s, much like the Vikings of the 70s that played in 4 Super Bowls and lost. The Bills of the 90s did the same, but almost every impactful member of that team is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Whether it be Andre Reed, whether it be Jim Kelly, whether it be Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas, Marv Levy, the head coach, you name it, all those guys. And I get it for most of the Purple People Eaters are in, but that seems like a glaring omission that Jim Marshall's not in there. One of the all-time greats passed away yesterday. We'll take our final break of our first hour. We come back. We'll get you ready for hour number 2. Got a couple emails coming in here on a busy Wednesday morning. Hot Mic rolls on. We're back after this on WDAY Extra and Inform.com right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Ben Hynek coming up from Stanley will join us here in a few minutes. Chat about how life has blown up for him, for a kid who just wrapped up his sophomore year of high school, and how things are. The SEC, the Big 12, Big 10 has come to Stanley, North Dakota over the last couple months. That's coming up in just a few minutes. A couple emails come in I wanted to get to. We haven't had a chance before the first hour is done. Dom, we need to break up the Rockies. Not only do they win a series against the Marlins, they've won 2 in a row. That is correct. We mentioned on Monday's show, Colorado was, after getting swept by the Mets, was 9-50. 9 wins, 50 defeats. They're now 11-50. I feel bad for the Marlins. Not really, because the Marlins have always been a thorn on the side of the Mets. But, yes, Colorado has now upped its winning percentage to 180, on the season, thanks to the 2 wins that they got over the last couple days. Another email comes in. Dom, is there any indication on realignment that this could affect the Summit League? We talked about this, if you missed it, with Drew Trafton about a half hour ago, that the rather cryptic tweet from our guy Sam Herder about indicating there likely is going to be some realignment news today involving Western mid-major teams. I think the Summit is on red alert on this, frankly. They are waiting if the WAC is going to fall apart, which we've heard every indication that likely is going to be the case, then this new Summit League Missouri Valley partnership could be in there to scoop up whatever is left, whether it's the Utah schools, whether it's a couple of schools out of Texas, that they are in, quote, prime pouncing position is maybe the best way to describe. But the dominoes got to fall. Utah Valley is pretty much holding all the cards to that because there are multiple leagues that are pursuing them. So that's what we're waiting on. Whether that happens over the next hour and we find out, that'd be great. But if not, we'll chat about it on the show tomorrow. But that's kind of the waiting off point that we're at. I know the Summit would like Utah Valley because they play baseball, they play men's soccer, and they're good in basketball. Those are 3 huge deals there. It's not just everyone looks at the football element, which is fine, but if you don't sponsor football, what other sports do you have? Men's soccer is one of the league, and they play women's soccer. That's a huge deal for the Summit League. They have a huge enrollment. I think there's over 30,000 students that go there. That's a big deal. And, oh, yeah, their team was in the baseball tournament. Utah Valley made the NCAA baseball tournament, and they're pretty good in hoops. You make that, you do that. And then maybe you're able to get the other Utah schools, which I'm not thrilled about for football reasons. That's just me. Personally, I would look at the Texas schools. If Abilene Christian, who we saw, pretty good, they care about football. Tarleton State, we saw them last year as well. Scared the heck out of South Dakota. They care about football. I would pursue them. If I was commissioner, and that would be a great job, I would love it. That's the ones I would go after. But we'll see what the dominoes fall on this. But it likely is going to start today. We'll break. We come back. We'll start hour 2. Ben Hynek will join us from Stanley, North Dakota on being recruited by Power 4 schools. That's coming up when hour 2 of Hot Mic begins on this Wednesday, right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 on this Hump Day Wednesday, ready to start. Thompson Sam Roller will join us about a half hour about heading to the NCAA Track Championships. Excited to visit with Sam. That's coming up in about 30 minutes. I'm really pumped to have our next guest on because I got wind of this guy this past football season, and then I think everybody's caught wind that follows high school football in the state of North Dakota because we got another Class B school that's joined the ranks of getting Power 4 colleges to come and look at a player. Ben Hynek is one of the top guys of the class of 2027 out of Stanley, North Dakota, who's got offers from, I got at least 10 colleges already, and he just wrapped up his sophomore year of high school football. And Ben joins us this morning to chat about it. It's great to have you on the show, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. This is a lot for just a 10th grader. How have you handled all this?
You just take it day by day. You look at what you got and what you can do, and then you just go from there. You kind of got to take it all in and take it with a grain of salt.
All right, so when did the first big time school? When did that happen? Who was it, and how much? What did that do for you mentally? Okay, this is happening in terms of college football.
So it was probably really late October, early November. I'm sitting in the lunchroom eating lunch, and my football coach comes in, and he's got this look on his face, something's happening, and he finds me. He goes, "Minnesota wants you to go down for a game day visit." I'm like, holy crap, and nothing like that's ever happened. I'm like, this is absurd, and then everything just kind of kept happening. I'm like, wow, this is really happening.
So that was the snowball effect started there?
Yep.
Yeah. What was that trip like down to Minnesota?
So that weekend, and then I got another game day from K-State, and I flipped and I went to K-State, and that was the first one, and that was a surreal experience. That was awesome. That was really cool.
I know, I think in February, I want to say Wisconsin offered. So give us the lowdown on that, getting that phone call. Okay, now there's an actual scholarship attached to it.
Yeah, so I think it was a Tuesday or a Thursday or something. We had a basketball game that day, and I just got dismissed from class. And I see my football coach is also a basketball coach, and he's like, "Hey, Wisconsin wants to get on the phone with you right now." And I didn't even have time to put my bags down. I just went into the office, got on the phone, and I had been on phone calls before, but no offer from them. So I kind of knew. I didn't know that I was going to get an offer. And then they said that. I'm like, it just blew me away. I mean, it was awesome. I was so happy for that.
And obviously the train has been rolling since, so it's all old hat now, which I'm joking about that. But just to describe this, man, this is a lot. And mention you just finished your sophomore year. When in your mind did you say, I think I can be a college football player? I can be a Division I player?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question for sure. Just whenever your body's right and you're mentally there and you think you can play with those big guys. I mean, hopefully when I'm a senior, I'd be able to get out there, but that's just kind of wishful thinking.
So, I mean, you mentioned in the commercial here before we came on, you've had these schools come to Stanley, North Dakota. What has that been like to have a Big Ten SEC school step foot in Stanley? What's that been like?
That's really cool. You have a lot of pride in your school, and then you're talking to these big guys, and then they come out and show you face to face, and that's really cool. And having your friends walk the halls, and then look to their left, and there's the big name coach that's right there. That's really cool, I think.
All right, so we're going to show some video of you as a player, and you're either pancaking guys or you're making big plays up front. Describe yourself as a player and what you think you can do at the next level.
All right. I think I'm a smarter player. I think I can offer I think I can also offer a lot of length and strength to a team and some speed. I think I can play multiple positions. I can play, I could grow up and I could put on 50 pounds and play left tackle, or I could play D tackle even, or I could just kind of slim out and muscle up and play D end, or, get faster and play tight end, no telling where the future holds. And, I'm kind of prepared for that.
We got video. You catching the ball, man. Are they looking at you and playing? You got some good hands. Are they talking about offense or what?
Yeah, I've had some schools say we're going to keep you as a tight end, keep you as this. And I've had other schools say we're going to put you at a offensive tackle, offensive line build, it's pretty cool.
Do you prefer anything out there? Do you prefer offense or defense right now?
I wouldn't say I prefer really anything. I find love in every position that I play, and I love it all. I doing whatever it takes to contribute to the team.
To have this all happen, is this all a lot? Is it a lot to take? I know we started the interview with this, but this is a lot, man. I'm sure your phone is blowing up all the time when it can. What is it a lot to take in at 16 years old?
I would say it is, but it's been happening for months and months, and you kind of get, I wouldn't say used to it, but you understand that you're gonna get blown up and all this and all that, and I think it's really fun, and it's a huge blessing for sure.
I know your dad played at NDSU. The Bison offered you in mid-March. What did that mean that Coach Polisek came and offered you?
That meant a lot to me. I've always grown up watching the Bison. Growing up, hey, you want to play with the Bison? You want to play with the Bison? You got to do this. And that was really cool and super special. And I think that one was special for my dad too, to hear that one.
So the obvious question is, what's the timeline like? You still got a long way to go. Have you thought about that, or is that something that's still like way far down the road?
I think it's way far down the road. I've tried to think about decisions like that and stuff, and I just get nowhere with it. It's a super tough decision, and but I'm excited for it.
I got to ask here for people that don't know, Ben, what is like the summer now recruiting season, camp season? What's that for a player like yourself? I'm sure everybody wants you to come and go wherever. How do you, I guess, decide where you want to go and what you want to do? What goes into that? And what are you doing this summer?
So I'm not going to do any camps this summer, but I think we're going to try and do a road trip, try and visit a few schools. I think the key is to visit the schools that you can see yourself playing at and that have a real chance, go to camps that you think you see yourself playing at or you really want to go play at, and play camps where you can learn from. I think that's a huge, huge thing in this.
To have Stanley be on the map like this, we've seen like West Hope, obviously. Walker Broughton was talking to me about big-time schools coming in. We've seen Hankinson with Cody Malk, or Animus, obviously, or Balfour with the Volsons. Now Stanley's in that club, and that's because of you. What's that mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. Gotta try and leave behind a legacy at the high school and put Stanley on the map and show them that it's not just one small town. It could be a factory. I think it's super cool.
Everybody knows for basketball, because you guys have been at state a couple back-to-back years. Gosh, I want to say maybe a decade or so ago. How much you want to put football on that map? Say, hey, we're not just a one-sport town.
Oh, I would love to do that. I think that's a huge goal of mine, is get our football team really successful and really up there in the talking for, a championship and stuff like that. And I think that's my main focus right now, is trying to get wins for our football team, put that on the map too.
Your former teammate is coming here. Give us a lowdown on Drake Schlosser, and what for Bison fans can they expect out of him?
Drake, he's an incredibly hard worker. One of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker I've ever been around. We are in the weight room pretty regularly together, and we push each other to the limits, and it's really cool. I think NDSU is going to get a really special guy on their hands.
I got to ask as well, I know you put the tweet out. You had your first dunk in a basketball game this year. Can you get you're 6'6", man. How can you not get up? Tell us about this.
I play power forward and big, so I'm usually one of the last guys down the court, and I don't get many dunk opportunities, but that was a pretty good one.
Yeah,
I
okay.
That was fun.
Did you get razzed after the game? Your teammates give you a hard time afterwards?
Yeah, a little bit, and they were also kind of congratulating me. It was cool. It was fun.
Describe just even normal life now, that this is blown up in a way that it impacts everything. It's not just you, your family, friends. What is it? Is it a constant thing of conversation about recruiting, or how do you put that out? Say, you know what? I don't want to talk about it right now.
I wouldn't. It's not a constant thing, but it's kind of always there. There's times for that conversation, and there's times where that doesn't really matter right now, which is good for sure. But yeah, it's kind of always there for sure.
Describe the upcoming year. I know you want to enjoy summer. You're going to do some camps with your teammates, but to get ready for 2025, knowing maybe you snuck up on people last year, you're going to be a marked man next fall. How do you feel about that?
It's a huge blessing. I'm super excited for it now. I think I'm the man for the job. I'm always in the weight room for this and preparing for this, and then just trying to make our team better is a main goal of mine for sure.
Now, you do track as well. How much does that help for football in the sports you participate in track?
I usually do throwing, and I think that helps a lot with some explosive stuff. But then this spring, I also did a little bit of running and sprinting, and I think that helped tremendously. Just running every other day or every day, high intensity sprints is huge.
Give me a sense of out there, top rival for you guys in football. Who's the one that you guys really get up for?
Oh, I don't know. There's a couple of teams for that. I'll give you two. So Ray Powers Lake is always there because we used to co-op with Powers Lake a little bit, and then Velva because back in the day it was Stanley and Velva, and yeah.
I'm looking at your schedule for next season. You got rugby, you got EEK you're going to play, you got Bishop Ryan, you're going to Ray on the road. Have you looked ahead that far or not yet? I want to enjoy a little bit of summer.
Yeah, I've definitely looked ahead, but I don't have it memorized quite yet. But it's getting there. I'm super excited for it all.
Last thing before I let you go, and I really appreciate the time. When you see a phone call, like either it says Alabama or Missouri, like area code, what is that emotion like when you see that pop up on your phone?
It's really surreal. It's wow, this is cool. This is really happening. This guy down in wherever is a big name guy, and he's calling me up in Northwest North Dakota. It gets you a little nervous, but then at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys, man, in the class of 2027. We got a couple in Kindred, yourself, a guy that already have numerous FBS offers, Power 4 offers. What is in the water in North Dakota for this class? That this might be the best football class that we've had ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really great guys in this class, and I think it's really special that I'm a part of that group with these great guys, and I'm excited for what the future holds with us.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. Don't forget us when you become a big deal here, okay? And have a great summer, and we'll do this again down the road, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Stanley's Ben Hynek joining us here this morning. You'll get to know the name. If you don't know him now, you'll know it soon enough. I want to read through here. I didn't want to do it to embarrass him on the show, but this is I got word of it. That's how old I'm getting. Stanley's football coach is Jackson Lorenz. I covered Jackson when he was playing at Grand Forks Central. He's now the football coach at Stanley. And when we were chatting about Drake Schlosser committing, and we had Drake on the show in January when he was going to sign with the Bison, he gave me a heads up on Ben and said, hey, just so you know, we got another guy that's going to be a big deal. And he was right about that. So since the turn of the year, since the calendar flipped, this is who Hynek has had offered. Wisconsin, North Dakota State, Kansas State, Auburn, Missouri, Minnesota, Iowa State, Kansas, Illinois. Out of Stanley, North Dakota. So he's got one FCS offer, which is NDSU. The other are all Power 4 schools. You've got Big 10, Big 12, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10. I'm not making it a big deal, folks. They are. That's who's offered the young man. And I think he's handling about as best you could. For a 16-year-old kid, that's a lot. That's a lot on one's shoulders. And I don't know if they're necessarily pressing for a commitment yet. I think for some, maybe as we get closer to the start of the school year, maybe that'll come about. But for right now, and there's probably more coming, because once one gets out there, and then normally, and I'll say this, when NDSU offers a guy, that's when a certain amount of schools like Minnesota, like Kansas State, like Iowa State, like Kansas, like Iowa, they will pay attention to a kid. It's just a matter of fact. Not saying that as a homer or because I call Bison games. It's just fact. You look at offers of high-profile guys, and Ben's now a 4-star, and I didn't mention that because the stars and stuff is so wonky of how we've had people come on and say it, that don't look at the stars. Look at who's offering. And look who's offering this kid. That's who's important. So you look at 27. You've got Luke Starcevic at Kendrick and Brooks Bacco, both at Kindred. You've got Kessel's younger brother, gosh, I forget his name, at Fargo South, who's got a Gopher offer. That happened week and a half ago. And obviously Ben out at Stanley. 2027 may have the at least high offer talent in the state of North Dakota we've ever seen, because that's impressive. Starcevic's got 10. Bacco's got a bunch of Power 4 offers. It's happening, folks. It's a big deal for the class of 2027. Congrats to Ben, and we'll have him back on the show. Once things start to get closer to maybe making a commitment, we'll have him on. Maybe he'll break the news on the show. We could love that. Let's break. We come back. We'll get caught up in a couple of emails. Remember, Sam Roller from Thompson, North Dakota, coming up here in about 15 minutes. Back on Hot Mic on a Hump Day Wednesday, right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Ben Hynek for getting us a few minutes there. That was good stuff. Email comes in on Jim Marshall. Don, thanks for the info on Jim Marshall, all-time great Viking. When mentioning the Purple People Eaters, don't forget to mention our local member of the group, Gary Larson. I did. Concordia Cobber, 1964. Just a thought. Appreciate that. I did. I was blanking on the last guy. That is prior to my time, I will say. But, yes, got to have that. So, just make it make sense that you play 270 straight games and not get into the Hall of Fame. That part is befuddling to me. Let's see. A couple other things going down here before we break. Another email. Dom, you see who Ohio State added in football for a schedule? I did. I found this. Actually, this tweet was up when we were interviewing Ben. The Ohio State, of course, the reigning national champs, you have decided recently to start scheduling FCS teams, and Youngstown State is the beneficiary of that. They added a game with the Penguins to be played in Ohio Stadium on September 15th, 2029. They also will play a game with Navy, game with Nevada moved to 20. I love college football. We got games that are scheduled for like 2034 right now. But yeah, Youngstown gets a game against the Ohio State. We can wish and dream for other FBS opponents, folks. That's all we're left to do right now at covering North Dakota State, because the Bison aren't getting any of those games. I'm looking quick here. Youngstown has actually, they've done well for themselves in their non-conference scheduling here. Youngstown this year plays Michigan State. Next year, Kentucky. Year after that, Maryland. They don't have anything up for 28, and now they got Ohio State. That's good. But, again, they schedule teams in that level of football they know they can beat. And what's the opening clip to our shows? The question I asked Deion Sanders last year at Big 12 Media Day. Can you give me a layup or something? He didn't want to play that game. He wanted no part of it. And that's the real crux of the argument here. Now, as we look forward to next football season with the announcement, and it'll come, I would say, in the next week or so, the FCS is going to sign off and go to a 12-game season. Does that mean the door opens for FBS games? I wouldn't think so. I know the Bison are actively looking at 2027 as a potential FBS date. Right now, they only have one game scheduled for 2027, and I believe one for 28, but that's the Oregon game that they have on the schedule for 2028, which is kind of crazy now that we're this far, because we're halfway through the decade now in terms of scheduling. But that's how far out it goes. You'd be surprised. There are some teams. Let me look Ohio State here real quick now that this is done, because I bet you they have games beyond 2030. This is just a fun game I like to play. Okay. So Ohio State has, what do they have now? Nevada in 2030 and Georgia. They have Boston College scheduled for 2035, 10 years from now. What do you think? What do you think college football is going to look like 10 years from now? You think that BC, Ohio State game is going to happen. And then they have a return trip. They go to Boston College in September of 2036. What do you think the chances are those games actually happen? I don't know. But that, again, another reason why the sport is as great as it is, it's also messed up. Like, what are we doing? We're scheduling 10 years out for games, and those games were not scheduled this year. They've been on the books for a bit. Just hilarious to me that this sport does that, but they can't get out of their own way with some things, and that's another one, like scheduling for that far down the road. We have no idea what the format is going to look like. We can't even agree on it now of trying to figure out the college football playoff. You're going to tell me we're going to know what the deal is in 2036? Come on. There should be, and Dan Patrick was on this last week, there should be some sort of college football scheduling maker, czar, whatever you want to call the person that determines, like the NFL does, has a formula of who you play. And you got to play one FCS team every year. I know the big boys would hate it. That would be great. Instead of, willy-nilly scheduling that we have now, then you would have a schedule maker, a formula that determines it. Because the NFL, how does it work? You play your division teams twice a year, right? Then you play one division from the other conference. You play all those teams. So there's 4 games. Then you play another division in your conference, right? Because the Vikes are playing. I forget who the Vikes have this year. I think it's the NFC East, I want to say. Kyle, you can look at that for the break. Let me know on that. I think the Vikes play the NFC East this year. And there you go. And then you play one crossover game because they still haven't figured it out because we're not to 18 games yet. College football can do that. Hey, you're going to play these teams in your conference based on location. The fact that Nebraska and Minnesota didn't play last year is stupid. Make it work. Make it make sense that we're not scheduling games to 2036. All right, I'm done. Let's break. When we come back, we'll head to the track. Thompson, North Dakota will be represented at the NCAA Track Championships a week from tonight. Sam Roller will join us on throwing the javelin at Tracktown, USA next week. That's coming up. We come back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Wednesday morning show rolls on. A week from today, the focus of at least our sports world will be out in Eugene, Oregon for the opening day of the NCAA Track Championships. Tracktown USA will once again get the NCAAs. Once again, North Dakota State will be represented out there by our next guest from Thompson, North Dakota. Now they get a spot in the NCAA Track Championships. That's pretty cool. Sam Roller joins us in an event that I'm always fascinated to watch. The Javelin, he qualified last week out of College Station in the West Regional, and he'll be throwing a week from tonight. It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for the time. All right, when I say that, a week from tonight, you're on the big stage. What goes through your mind when I say that?
I guess just kind of really being grateful. I think, coming into college as a freshman, this is something everybody always dreams of, especially the way that NDSU does it. They hang banners at the track and everybody just kind of looks at it. And so it's kind of just a goal that I think for most people, especially me, was just kind of way in the back of my mind. Didn't really consider to be a reality at sometimes. And then now that I'm actually here, it's just kind of trying to take it all in.
So you uncorked your best throw last week. Oh, I think was it your last throw as well?
Yeah, it was. It was my last throw.
So tell me about saving your best for last, knowing you got just a little bit left in the tank to try and qualify.
Yeah. I came in and, had a decent practice on Tuesday, just kind of got loose and then warmed up, felt okay. Didn't feel like anything great was happening in warm-ups, but I felt like I was ready to throw. And then I took my first throw and I wasn't very happy with it. And then my second one was kind of just a throwaway. And so at that point, I was just I stood on the track on that third throw, and I kind of thought it over as like, this could be my last throw very well as an NDSU Bison. And so I was just decided I was going to give it everything I had. And luckily I had some teammates there and I get a good clap going for it. And I think it gave me the juice I needed to pop one out there and, hit a PR. So happy with what happened.
All right, so when it's out of your hands, do you know, like a baseball player knows when they hit it, do you know right when you release it, okay, this could be a good one?
I think so, yeah, because it all normally has to do with how it starts flying. Obviously, the javelin is a big stick, so if it starts flying off to the side a little bit or it goes up in the air too much, uh, you kind of expect it not to go very far. But on that last one, I definitely hit it straight through the tip, and it didn't like come out with, I would say, any more power than normal, but I could tell that it was just going to keep flying straight. And yeah, I just kept watching it, kept going, and it was a good feeling.
So you see it keep going, you're like, all right, it's like, hey, go as far as you can. Like, how do you handle that after you release it?
Definitely, yeah. You just kind of hope that it stays up. You kind of time it out in your head for how long it stays in the air, and then luckily at some of these bigger meets, they have lines out there painted for the distances. And so I saw the 70-meter line. That's right where I threw it. And I thought it was a little short right away. So I was like, okay, that might be around what my old PR was. And that I knew had a good chance to get in past years. And so it landed out there and I was pretty excited. And then it came up on the big board and then saw PR and it just made everything even better.
That emotion, Sam, knowing you're going to keep going, your career is going to keep going, you're going to go where you wanted to go. Describe that.
Mm-hmm. Kind of, yeah, I don't know. It was actually kind of not normal situation, I'd say for me. I think my plan had been to come back next year up until May. And then I actually got into med school. And so that changed. And then I decided that, yeah, this will be my last year. And so I was kind of just trying to take every moment as it came and as, not really be disappointed with anything that happened no matter what, but I definitely, wanted to get here. And I think just keeping things alive is just a way, I guess, that I'm holding on to this time as a Bison, but no, I'm definitely just very, very overwhelmed. Sometimes I don't even know what to say about it. So
this is quite the month for you, man. You found out you're making med school and going to the NCAA track. I mean, just can you wrap your brain around that? What the last 30 days have been like?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I think about it and I'm trying not to think too much ahead of myself. I know that I've just got a lot on my plate no matter what. And so I'm trying to take every day as it comes and just get through it.
It's interesting, Sam, you bring that up because, we talk with other athletes about weighing, about coming back for another year. Well, I want to play some more or I have left unfinished business. Did you have that mentality before finding out med school was a possibility, a reality?
Yeah, I guess I kind of knew based on how this year had started. I had like a few good practices and I had a good meet early in the year where I hit a big PR and I was kind of like, okay, the way that things are trending, this year, even if I don't make it, I know that I have a really good chance next year. And so I think that we just kind of made things happen as they go. And yeah, it's still a crazy feeling.
So for the competitors you're going to face next week, are these guys well, guys you faced off against? Does that help in terms of what to prepare for next week?
Funny enough, I don't know how often I have actually competed against a lot of these guys because a lot of the meets obviously we go to, being one of the smaller Division I schools because of all track is all together. We kind of compete against similar sized schools. We go to a couple big meets, but there's not a lot of names that I remember. But funny enough, a lot of these people are now social media content makers for like Javelin and stuff like that. So some of them are people like I've just been seeing scrolling through Instagram or something like that. And then knowing that, yeah, I'll be thrown against them. It's kind of a cool thing to see.
All right. So 231 feet was what you got for last week. What do you think you need to be All-American, top 8? What's it going to take to get there on the podium?
Ooh. I'm not sure exactly how far. I think it fluctuates in most years, but I know that we had a guy throw, I think like maybe 73, 74. So that would be another 10 feet. So I don't know if if I get out to 240 maybe, but that might be a big stretch for me. But we're hoping.
Just to get there is an accomplishment in itself. And I know you're out there, you want to win it, you want to finish as high as you can. Is that something you'll appreciate after it's done, that I did this? There's only the rare few that can make it to Oregon, that you're part of that group.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of me is already just appreciating the opportunity. And I think that also helps take a lot of the nerves out of it, is going in, without too much expectation, but just being grateful for the opportunity that I've been given. But definitely I want to do as best I can, place as high as I can. And so I think that, and especially afterwards, even, a few days, few months, even a few years, I think I'll always be able to look back and just appreciate the time that I've had here and those opportunities that I've had.
How about for a Class B? And I know Jacob Rodin from Kenmare was out running at the NCAAs a couple years ago, your former teammate. Now Thompson is going to be represented out there. What's that mean to you personally to have another Class B school at the NCAA championships?
Yeah, I think, it's quite a humbling feeling, honestly, coming from, these small towns. And I know coming to here, I've got a lot of also North Dakota kids, but normally they're like Class A kid teammates, and they always would make jokes about like picking out on the Class B kids or everything like that. And I think that, it's kind of good to see, even for maybe the few people that will realize that, like, Class B in North Dakota is sometimes just kind of looked at as, you do the sport and you're done, but like there is opportunity out there. And a lot of times, these kids might not have the same opportunities, the same facilities, the same type of stuff that these Class A schools, but there's still lots of room to develop after if they really want to go for it. Like coming out of high school, I threw 177, I think. And so now I've put nearly
Holy
60
cow.
feet on my PR. So it's definitely an opportunity that is there for people if they want to chase it.
Bison blood has been with you forever. Obviously, your grandpa and your dad played football at NDSU. Was this a no-brainer when the Bison were interested in you in track?
I think so. Yeah, I think I tried to tell myself a lot more often that like I still had options, but I think there was this bug in my head that kind of knew that I was destined to come here. Yeah, I think I remember being a little kid and always going to Bison football games or cheering on the Bison no matter what. Like part of me always wanted to be here, and then just getting that opportunity to compete as an athlete was something I couldn't really pass up. So very special opportunity.
So you're part of that 2019 Thompson Class B basketball team, correct? That won the state championship. So you're going to be remembered forever because of that. What is that? I mean, you still get asked about that now?
I haven't been asked about it in a while, I guess, but it's definitely something I talk about with some hometown people. But no, that was really special, yeah, because obviously it was the first time we'd ever even gone to state, and then, winning that. And obviously I was just a sophomore on the team. I didn't play very much, but I think that just being there and experiencing that for not only the team, but for like the town was really special as well.
I asked you this when we visited before you went down to College Station, that I think it's 13 or 14 years in a row the Bison have won the Javelin at the Summit League Championship.
Yep.
Did you feel some pressure to keep that streak alive in Vermillion a couple weeks ago?
I think so. It's something that we kind of joke and talk about at practice coming up to conference, is just that, we've got this streak over our head. We don't want to lose it. And so I think, I came in seated a little bit higher than everybody, but I definitely wanted to get it, especially on the team side of things. Getting those 10 points is always very special. And we couldn't quite pull it off, but I know that it was since Javelin's the first day for conference, it's kind of a momentum booster. And to be able to, go out there and even like throw a big throw in PR and give kind of the rest of our teammates some juice for the rest of the weekend is really a special thing.
So after you throw Wednesday, can you stay out there for a bit? Or does real life start right away after competition is wrapped?
I think the plan is, so I throw Wednesday and the plan is to come back on Friday. So on Thursday, I think we're going to try to find some stuff to do. We had talked about going out to the coast and
nice.
we'll weigh our options. But yeah, we'll definitely get a little sightseeing in or something like that on Thursday.
Well, it's awesome to get a chance to chat again. Congratulations on qualifying. Good luck next week out in Oregon, okay?
Hey, thank you very much.
Great to see you, bud. There he goes, Sam Roller from
You
Thompson,
too.
North Dakota. He'll be competing a week from tonight in Tracktown, USA at the NCAA Championships in the Javelin. We'll get you all updated on that as we get closer to it. But he's the lone representative for the Bison this year, which is odd. Normally NDSU has at least a couple that make it, but they got the streak continued with Sam going out there. UND has a couple. You met Jaden Keeler last week. She qualified in the 10,000. Kenna Curry is going out as well in one of the throwing events for UND. So hopefully we'll get a chance to visit with one of them as we get closer to it. But congratulations to Sam. That event, something about it, man. I love watching it. It's bizarre, but I love it. Congratulations to him on heading out to Eugene. We'll take our last break. We come back. We'll wrap things up and get you ready. Got a great Sports Wednesday on tap. We'll get you ready for that when Hot Mike wraps right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Wednesday morning. Back tomorrow. We'll get ready for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. We'll get you all set for that coming up here in just a minute. And steamrolling towards the end of the week. Looking forward to that. As just an update, by the way, for those that follow, and you see on our ticker on the bottom, all the local softball teams got rained out in Minnesota yesterday. The opening day of the state high school league softball tournament was rained out in Mankato, and so everything got moved to today, which is aggressive from the state high school league. But they are playing 16 games today, some that started at 8:30 this morning. So I believe they're going to play the quarterfinals and the semifinals today, because they have, I believe, now 4 classes of softball in the state of Minnesota. So with the day getting rained out at Caswell Park there in North Mankato, remember vividly driving past it every time when we would go to Vikings training camp when the Vikes were still in Mankato, right on the left-hand side as you're driving into town. There it is. Everything got rained out, so they are playing today. So update on that. Also, a shout out, and I hope to do this before the week is out. Congratulations to three teams from Moorhead. Moorhead baseball is still alive for a chance to go to state. Moorhead baseball hasn't been to state, I don't know how long, been a while. And both lacrosse teams, which are not old. Moorhead, I was there at the school board meeting when they signed off on making boys and girls lacrosse a varsity sport in Moorhead. There were people crying that day. They were that excited about it. The boys have been a machine. They've been to state, I believe, 4 years in a row. They'll play again for a berth at state tomorrow. Congratulations to the Moorhead girls. They are playing in the section championship, I believe, for the first time tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at Jim Goda Stadium. So shout out to the Spud girls lacrosse team that they've got a chance to go to state for the first time. So good stuff going on there. Yeah, I know today is the last day of high school athletic competition in North Dakota. We've got A and B boys golf wrapping up in Minot and Jamestown, and then we're done. Minnesota, we still go for 3 more weeks, which again begs the question, why can't we do that in North Dakota? Sure, it was fun this past weekend. We had wall-to-wall games going on, but it would be okay if we were to spread things out too. So last thing I'm going to say on it, at least for this time period. We'll wait till next March, and I'll restart again, lowering the boom on that. All right, before we do it, we wrap up every day. We do some What to Watch. Let's do it before we wrap up our show here on this Wednesday. What to Watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We appreciate that. No shortage of goodness tonight. If you want to stay up late, and they've made it worth your while the last 2 nights, Twins and A's coming up 9 o'clock on Twins TV. It'll be Zebby Matthews pitching tonight. Again, if you missed the start of the show, Twins will get an MRI today on Pablo Lopez, and we'll see what his status is going forward. But the offense has not been an issue the last 2 days. They've scored 20 runs in that minor league ballpark in Sacramento. That's coming up at 9 o'clock. We got Game 1, Stanley Cup Final tonight on TNT with Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk on the call, 7 o'clock. Panthers and the Oilers in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Also tonight is Game 1 of the Women's College World Series on ESPN at 7 o'clock. Texas and Texas Tech will play best of 3. Game 1 tonight. Texas Tech has Najiri Kennedy, the top pitcher who got $1 million to transfer from Stanford to Texas Tech. She's phenomenal to watch. We got to roll. Thanks to our guest today, to Drew Trafton, to Ben Hynek, and to Sam. He was last name, Sam Roller. Blanked on that for a second. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Watch a full replay on WDAY Plus. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.